Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is $3 Theater. And with Avengers Endgame's announcement the other day finally upon us, we know what to look forward to in April when the movie drops. We know, we know our heart is going to be feeling a few things. We know our heart is going to be experiencing some stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how this movie absolutely tugs on our heartstrings, how it absolutely just plays with our emotions, because the Russo bros are bastards and they know it. But that being said, there's a new theory that's emerged on Reddit that's very interesting and kind of taking parts of the internet by storm. And it all has to do with whether or not anyone actually died at the end of Avengers Infinity War. But first things first, before we jump into that one, just so you guys know, if you want to support the channel, I'm over on Subscribestar right now. The reason why is because, well, Patreon has started enacting some draconian policies, meaning if I see something naughty over here that they don't like over there, they can cut off my entire funding and screw me over. So a lot of people are leaving Patreon and moving over to this new platform, subscribestar.com/Monday and Matt. Link for it will be in the video description. I really appreciate you guys checking it out. And anyway, let's talk about the Avengers Endgame theory that claims no one died from the snap. When Thanos snapped, did anyone really die? Again, I've mentioned it a couple times recently in some videos about some different theories, especially about a multiverse split. And this theory goes into greater detail. So it says here that much of the speculation from the post-snap universe has been about if the dissolved people's fates. What if the snap killed one of them? Or killed none of them. It's possible that we've all been making fun of Thanos, saying that death wasn't necessarily with the near infinite power of the gauntlet. What if it simply split the reality in two, taking half of everyone into each other's version, missing the other half, but retaining the same resources? If two parallel realities could be joined by sort of bridge in the quantum realm, since Scott, this would be Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, was in the quantum realm at the time of the split, he was unaffected by the snap and not bound to either reality, leaving him free to travel from one to the other over this bridge. Maybe this leaves him free to travel through the parallel dimensions created by Thanos, splitting the time stream. He would be the only way for them to communicate with one another. Maybe he exists in both realities and gains knowledge from both due to some strange form of quantum entanglement. As to why the snap didn't potentially affect him, he goes on to say here, the quantum realm was in other dimensions. In the comics, the quantum realm, the microverse, is a parallel dimension that is only reachable through magic, like a sling ring, or Pym particles. The quantum realm time works different. The common theory is that the time traveled, but he maybe just got stuck in time, so the snap effects are delayed. The quantum realm is going to appear in Captain Marvel, according to several news sources as well. So we know that the quantum realm is going to be a large part of the MCU going forward, right? Is that as well as like the cosmos side of it, right? The cosmic side of things. They are very much taking it in those very microscopic and very large directions. It's the micro and the macro. It's very interesting. But well, let's just kind of take a look here at the rest of the theory and then break it down. All right, so he says, I have a few other ideas of how this could affect the Endgame. In one of the Marvel mobile games, the whole premise is that two universes are colliding, and one must be destroyed in order to save the other. Maybe one dimension will need to cease to exist to prevent the end of everything. Maybe the two dimensions are entangled with each other, and the Infinity Stones are scattered across the two dimensions, meaning they will need to gather their respective stones in the same place. This would only be possible due to Scott's ability. Okay, so that's an interesting take on it as well. But he basically goes on to explain, I think, why he got this theory. He says here, the main purpose behind this theory is to allow the MCU to transfer to a Secret War storyline for the next phase. It is one of the coolest things I could think of for the next phase. I also think this is a long shot theory, but I just wanted an alternative to using time travel to undo what happened in the last Avengers movie, which has been something I've been running with. This allows Thanos to succeed with the snap and means that the Avengers are just doing damage control rather than winning by erasing past events. Now, okay, so this is a pretty crazy theory, right? It's a pretty crazy theory overall. And the real question here is, how much of it could be accurate? How much of it couldn't be accurate? Well, everyone's talking about Scott being inside the quantum realm and therefore not being dusted by Thanos that protected him. Because, you know, Hank and Hope and Janet all disappeared. Well, how do we know that he was going to disappear? That's my question to that. How do we know that he wasn't just included in the snap? How do we know any of that? We really don't. But people are running on the theory that because he was in the quantum realm, he was somehow protected, which I guess in the way that these things often play out, that does tend to make a fair amount of sense, right? They're going to want to say, oh, you weren't impacted because you were in a different dimension. Therefore, you wouldn't be impacted by what Thanos had done, which is a good theory to work with. But at the same time, I think it'd be funny if it was just, no, he just wasn't chosen, right? Like he just wasn't chosen, because that's kind of Scott's luck, to be honest with you. Scott not being chosen for something kind of seems like, or being overlooked for something is kind of generally how, but like how his life kind of is. It's how he ended up working out of Baskin Robbins. All right. But the real here question is, how does he get out of the quantum realm? Who helps him get out? Is it the hard ass tardigrades that are rolling around in there? Or does he just figure out a way to get out? And then he drives the van from San Francisco all the way to New York, where the Avengers compound is, right? Because he knows where it's at. He's already been there. So obviously there's a little bit of time to get there. So it's going to take him a little bit to get from, you know, San Francisco to New York. There's going to be a bit of a trek, right? But the idea here about it splitting the realms makes sense. And especially leading into Secret Wars, because there's been a lot of speculation about Secret War, a lot of that being the next big event, right? That because every 10 years they want to bookend those phases with a different event. They want to bookend it with something crazy, and Secret Wars was a pretty big one. Now, we just learned the other night that the DC TV shows, I think last night, just announced that next year's crossover series is going to be Crisis on Infinite Earths. And it's entirely possible that that side of, you know, storytelling is something Marvel and Kevin Feige wants to do with this. If they were able to go to a different universe, then would Loki still be alive? In that universe, let's say Spider-Man went to a different multiverse, right? Would Loki be alive out there? Would he be, where would everybody be? What would be happening, right? Is it running together and then it splits, or is it running concurrent and then just separates? If so, are they running at the same frequency? So these are questions that are interesting. And I think, to be fair, if the gauntlet had separated the stones after being used, right, in that particular fashion, then having them scatter across the galaxy and then everyone has to go and kind of get them and return them doesn't make a lot of sense. It's kind of a pointless journey. Now, I think in the original comics, from what I was reading, I haven't read them, but from what I saw in another explanation video, is that they go to Thanos in the original comic, and like he had basically burnt out the gauntlet. Like the gauntlets, like he didn't realize that doing that was going to basically wipe out the stone's power, or like 50% of the stone's power. So it's entirely possible that he lost 50% of the stones. And that as a result of that, the stones are scattered. They gotta go and they gotta get them back. But I still think, if I'm being honest here, as cool as this theory is, I feel that time travel is going to be how they describe it. Now, the reason why I say that is this, because we know, based upon news sources that have been out for a long time, that Spider-Man Far From Home picks up 4 minutes after the event of Endgame. We know about that. That's been out there for a while. And if you looked at the description of Spider-Man Far From Home's trailer, at no point does it mention what happened. Does it mention Peter going to Titan? Does it mention Peter being dusted? Does it mention Peter going to space and using the same trick they used to blow the alien queen out of the space lock? Or no, the alien out of the space lock at the end of Alien, right? Did they talk about that? Now, I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I'm saying that they didn't acknowledge what had previously happened. That to me then says that the snap gets kind of overdone. They stop the snap from happening, because Thor knows how to stop Thanos. You have to aim for the head, right? And they're going to kind of Back to the Future to this thing. I know people are probably going to like that, but I think they're going to Back to the Future to this thing. Now, if they take Steve Rogers in his Winter Soldier outfit and he goes back to 2014, in 2014, there was no stone. There was no stone in Winter Soldier. So I don't know quite why he would go back to 2014. That would be, unless they're trying to find the Tesseract, but just back on Asgard at that point. It had been back on Asgard for 2 years, and the Ether was before that, but that was also in the, what was it? The Collector. The Collector had it, right? So he had it there. So there's no Infinity Stone in Winter Soldier. So I don't know why they would be going back to that. There was no Infinity Stone. Well, no, there was in Age of Ultron, Vision. There was no Infinity Stone in Civil War. So Captain America's connection to the stones is very limited. So I don't know why that would be a thing. But here's what I'm thinking is going to happen is I think they're going to go and they're going to get the time stone and they're going to reset everything. They're going to stop the snap from happening. And as a result of that, I think that they are going to, that's why I think they're going to reset time to before Thanos came to Earth. I think they're going to reset time by a ways. And then it's going to end with Peter being back on the bus with Ned on his way to go and catch a flight to Europe, right? Because no one knows. But there's a weird thing with that too. Because we know at the end of Infinity War, right, Maria Hill and Nick Fury were somewhere, some city. I got to go and look at it again. If it's London, then we know that Nick Fury this whole time is going to be in there, but it's not. It's in an American city because he was driving on the left side of the car. So it's not in a European city. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like there's maybe going to have to be some continuity there, I guess. We'll figure it out. But in the meantime, I don't think this theory is legit. I don't think it's accurate. I think it's a good theory. I think it's a very interesting storyline and one that would be too complicated to explain in like 2.5 hours. I do. I think it's going to be too complicated to go into the multiverse right away. There's going to be something to do with the quantum realm. I don't quite know what that is yet, but I think that's where things are going to be. I could be wrong. I could entirely be wrong. I want to hear your thoughts on this one because I've talked way too much on it. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you feel that this is a good theory, that this is where things are going to be? Or do you feel that they're going to go in the time travel route and they're going to stop the snap and then Thor's going to aim for the head and everyone's going to go back to the way it was? Or they're going to go back before Loki died? Maybe Thor's going to get the gauntlet and he's going to take it back to before Loki died and save Loki, right? Maybe that's what's going to happen. They're going to stop Thanos where Avengers Infinity War began, before Loki died. That would then lead into the Loki TV series, keeping him around. But then again, it also kind of does away with the permanence of people dying, and they keep dangling that over our heads. But we already know Black Panther 2 has been confirmed. We already know Spider-Man Far From Home has been shot. The trailer comes out in a couple days. We already know all these other things. So at this point, I'm not even running on the idea that people are going to die. I don't even think people are going to die and it's going to be permanent. I think that they're going to come back and it's going to be all fine. I do. It's going to have a happy ending. I think it's going to have a happy ending to bookend the first 11 years, the first 22 movies. And then from there, it's going to go and build into something else now that the quantum realm is going to be something they can play with. Again, if Hank Pym is back and working on it, because that's where he was at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp when he was dusted. So anyway, a lot going on there with this one. I want to know your thoughts. Let me know down in the comments below. My name, of course, is Matt Jarbo. This has been $3 Theater. If you guys haven't already, just type in Gauntlet in the chat so I know. If you guys want to call into our voicemail line, you can do so at there we go, at 818-350-3281. That's 818-350-3281. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This has been $3 Theater. Have yourself a great day, guys, and peace out.